A congressional report said to point to specific sources of foreign support for the September 11th hijackers who carried out the terrorist attacks. Two congressmen, Representatives Walter Jones and Stephen Lynch, read redacted portions of the 2002 investigation and say they are absolutely shocked. 26 pages of that 800-page report were censored. Pages completely blank except for dotted lines where some 7,200 words were at one time present. Leaked documents from both the CIA and the FBI point to some support from Saudi Arabia for the terrorists. The congressmen are now pushing for a resolution asking President Obama to declassify the entire report. Joining us is Fox News strategic analyst, Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters. Ralph, good to have you here. Your reaction to the shock by Congressman Lynch and Congressman Jones at looking at and I want to emphasize this, a redacted report.
Well, anyone who's shocked that the Saudis are out to harm us is incredibly naive. The Saudis, to me, may not be the most immediately dangerous enemy we have. They are the most insidious and most pernicious. They mock us. They regard the United States as the world's greatest prostitute because they've been able to buy so much influence in Washington and well beyond Washington. They joked after Desert Storm about hiring the U.S. Army to do their bidding. The Saudis, just briefly, Lou.
Well,
the only difference.
We got a lot to cover, though, Ralph.
Sure.
So please, briefly, as you put it.
Okay. The only difference between Al-Qaeda and the government of Saudi Arabia is on tactics and timetable. The ultimate goal is the same. Al-Qaeda is just violent and impatient. They both want the Wahhabi cult within Islam to prevail.
Let's turn to, if we may, former Secretary of Navy John Lehman writing a very important op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, talking about the fact that 1.5 million of the employees in the Pentagon are civilian or contractor rather than uniformed personnel, that more than half of our active duty uniformed personnel are actually serving on the staffs of various offices and officers rather than being, if you will, at the point of the spear. He says this is so wrong-headed. Your thoughts and how we can break this cycle of creating an ever more massive bureaucracy.
I agree with him in part. Mm-hmm. Certainly, the prevalence of contractors, even on the battlefield, is outrageous, counterproductive, expensive, and destructive. However, Lou, look, our modern military is vastly more complex than that of even the Vietnam era. And you are going to have more chairborne commandos, more technicians behind the lines, a greater proportion of technicians to frontline shooters. There's no way around that. It's not the American Civil War. So he's partly right. We've got a lot of fat, but you're going to need more guys behind desks.
And going to one other point that Secretary Lehman made, and that is, as you look at the procurement time to build a weapons system, going from 4 years, 30 years ago, to now 22 years based on extant regulation for procurement. I mean, that is a deeply troubling, if not outright frightening, balloon in time to have this nation as best prepared as we can be.
Every honest person in Washington, I think there are 4 of us now, agrees that the military procurement system is terribly broken. And it's broken there are 2 things behind it. One, back in the early 90s, late 80s, Congress allowed the contractors to write the procurement rules. So guess who the rules favor? The second thing is, it's not capitalism. We do not have competition in the defense industry. It's a massive cartel. And they collude, but they do it legally. They've got more lawyers than we have infantrymen.
Well, I could even put up with the lawyers. I could put up with, some, if you will, proximity, cronyism, whatever you would call it. If they could reduce and make more efficient the procurement of a weapon system being moved through the Pentagon and into production into the battlefield for our troops.
But Lou, to whose benefit would it be to make weapons procurement quicker and cheaper? Certainly not defense industry, certainly not contractors, certainly not Congress. The only people would be benefit would be the taxpayer and the soldiers, and nobody cares about them.
Well, Some of us do, right, Colonel? We appreciate it. Ralph Peters,
yeah,
thanks so much.
Got an honest man in New York.
Thank you thanks for including me in your rarefied club. I appreciate it. Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters. Up next, the Washington Post has its list of biggest lies of the year. We'll tell you how many Pinocchios the president racked up in tonight's Chalk Talk. We'll take it up with the A-Team. This is a mini splendored thing. Stay with us.